our learning goal for this particular section is to know that a percent is a ratio of a number to 100. We just want to make sure that we understand that a percent is a ratio of a number to 100. So let's take a quick look here. Take a quick look. Let me move my toolbar over here. Take a quick look at what exactly that means. So in this box we have 100 squares. You can take a quick look here and see that this is 10 squares by 10 squares. So there are 100 little baby squares inside of our square here. This is 100. Now if we were to say we wanted to see 25%, we want to see what 25% looks like. What we would do is exactly what we've done here. We would take 25 of the blocks out of our 100 and we would shade them. In this case you can see we have 25 shaded because we have 5 blocks here along the top and 5 blocks along the side, and when we multiply 5 times 5 we get 25. So we have 25%, and what that is it's actually 25 little blocks out of 100 blocks. And as you can see, that is a ratio, 25 per 100, or 25 to 100. We have 25 blocks to 100 blocks. Also, we talked about how fractions are kind of like proportions. So we can see that 25% can also be expressed as a ratio or fraction. If we look at it, we can also see that 25% can be presented as 25 over 100. It can also be represented as a decimal. If we were to divide 25 by 100, what would we get? Well, of course, we would get 0.25. Naturally, if we were to multiply 25 by 100, we would get 2,500, because we'd add 2 zeros to the right. If we want to divide, then we simply shift our decimal point 2 places to the left. Since 25 is really 25.0, we'll just take our decimal and we'll move it 2 times to the left, and that gives us 0.25. So you can see that we can convert among all of these different kinds of representations of a fraction or of a percent. So 25% is equal to 25 out of 100, which is a ratio of a number, 25 to 100, right there. And then when we solve that, when we actually calculate 25 divided by 100, we get 0.25. Well, let's take a look at that if we were to put in a different number. Let's say we had 35%. 35%, what would that be as a fraction? Well, of course, if we could represent that, we would say, take another 10 squares and fill them in our little grid here. And that would be 35 out of 100, or 35 to 100. So that is 35% represented as a fraction, or we can think of it as a ratio. And then if we were to divide that, again, we simply take our decimal point, which 35% is right here, just move it over 2 spots. 35% becomes 0.35. And that's how we will convert every percent to a decimal. Let's see it again. If we had 75%, then that would be 75 out of 100. As you can see right now, we have for 25 out of 100, or 25%, we have one of these squares filled in. If we were to have 75%, then we'd have to shade in this one and shade in this one, and that would give us 75%, or 75 out of 100. And then again, we simply take our decimal point and we move it over 2 spots to give us 0.75. Well, what if we had something crazy like 750%? That's more than 100. That's bigger than a whole. If we had 750 squares out of 100, we'd have to have 7.5 more boxes. We can say that as a fraction by saying 750 out of 100. Of course, that is also an improper fraction, so we could represent that as 7 and 50 100ths, or 7 and 1/2, 7.5. All right. So if we were to take this, then 7 and 1/2, then we know that 7 and 1/2 is really just 7.5. We could convert that to a decimal by just looking at this, 7.5. But let's see, is that right? Let's take our decimal point, which since it's 750, it's really just the same as 750.0. So we'll take our decimal point and we'll move it 2 spaces back. 1, 2. And of course that does give us 7.50. So in this case, 750% is equal to 7 51/100ths, 7.5, and that is equal to 7.5. And that's how we can convert between all of our different fractions, because we know that a percent is a ratio of a number, 25, to 100.